welcome to Cabin Life. We're going to show you how to put one of the Cabin Life cabins together. This kit we have here is called the Byron Cabin. Now it's very similar to the Haven Cabin and the Garden Retreat in that how it all goes together will work for the Byron Cabin as well as the Haven Cabin Kit. When your pack arrives, you'll end up with a pack like this. It's about 6 meters long, 1 meter wide and 1 meter high, and all covered in a nice solid crate, thick white plastic. So this can sit outdoors for a month. It's really not going to bother it. When we undo our pallet, we want to get a knife or a pair of pliers or a cutter, and we're going to cut this green tape here just like that. And pull away the big pieces of timber, and then we're going to get in and unwrap the pack itself. When we unwrap the pack, you don't want to undo the whole thing. We don't want bits of timber lying around on the ground, because all that happens is that there's a risk of getting pieces lost, and as timber sits in the sun, it'll tend to warp and twist and bow. That makes things difficult later on. So best to just unpack the timber off your pack. We'll undo the plastic, we'll fold it back, and then we'll show you what to do next. So now we've taken all our timber off the crate. What we want to do is you run a knife around the bottom here of your plastic. You only want to do that on the ends and one side, so that the other side is still attached, and so that you can lift this side up and over and put it back down later on when you've got the parts out that you need. When we start the cabin kit, what we're looking for is the green timber. That's what we use for our joists, and hopefully they're on top. And fortunately they are. So this is the timber we're looking for. What we're going to do is we're going to pull out the joist timbers. They're called your IAR1s on your plan. So when you look at your plan, which we'll show you shortly, they're IAR1s, 2s, 3s and 4s and 5s, depending how large your cabin kit is. We're going to put those over and get them ready to go, and then we're going to cover the rest of the pack up, keep it nice and dry and out of the sun as much as possible. Okay. So generally in top of these packs, you'll find your plans. There'll be a little standard book on how to build the cabin and the actual plan of the cabin kit itself. And you'll also find a bag of screws. In that bag of screws you'll have a lot of the screws, handles, locks and fittings. Best idea is to grab a box, put them all in a box so you don't lose anything. So we're doing the Byron Deluxe cabin here. This is what it looks like when it's finished. And in this, it shows us all the different details we need to know. Flooring, walls, etc. In the back of this plan, we have all the individual parts that go in to make up the whole cabin kit. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to start with the foundation kit. We see these timbers are greeny colour, the wall timbers are white. All the greeny colours are these fine foundation kits, and they're all called IAR 1s and 2s, 3s. So we're going to put that frame together, and all of our kits have been designed to make it as simple as possible to put together. We can put this together in 3 sections, being 1, 2 and 3. So we're going to pull those all out, and then we're going to join them all together. Here we go. So we're just going through our bag of screws and bits and pieces we've got here. You've got a detailed itinerary here that shows you exactly what screw goes where. We can follow that. So we've got these screws. They're designed for your windows. Go around your window edges. We've got these nails. These nails are used for your roofing boards and your flooring, unless you've got a nail gun. If you've got a nail gun, then use the nail gun. It's a lot quicker and easier. You've got these longer screws. They're 115mm long. They're the ones we use to put our joist timber together. They're pretty good, but with your kit we'll also provide, and these will come separately, these big beautiful batten screws. A little bit of overkill, but nothing like a lot of strength in your base. So these 115mm batten screws, we'll use those to put our joist together instead of these guys here that come with the kit. We just find them a lot stronger and a lot easier to work with. They will come separately with your base kit. We also have these beautiful things. These are for our posts. We'll get back to that a little bit later. We've got 4 of those. More nails. We've got galvanised treated nails there for your decking. And this cabin kit's got storm rods in it. It's got metal storm rods. With the metal storm rods, you get a little pack like this. They're joiners, and we'll show you how that works a little bit later on. But keep everything in your box so that you don't lose anything, and you won't be looking for it later. So this is where we're building this cabin kit. What used to be here was an old garage with this plywood on the floor, and it's got a little bit of yellow tongue flooring up the front here. We're going to use everything that's here, and we've got the bearers and joists through, but what we've done is we've done a little bit of an extension here with some posts, and that's where our veranda is going to come out to. So we're going to go straight onto this. Underneath here is joists, and your bearers go this way, your long ways, and we've got joists going this way, and we're going to rest our cabin kit on top of here. Now we've got our first layer of joist timber. The best thing to do any time you're working with this type of cabin is to put everything in a straight line, because you'll find a couple of these are 40mm bigger than the other ones. So what I've done is put them all in a straight line so we can look to the other end, and we know they're all exactly the same size, so we can't get confused. I'm also going to lay them out in 3 separate sections. The first section here, so we've got about 5 or 6, well, the 6, 7 there that go up on the front veranda coming back to the first section, and I'll put the rest out in layers where they're going to go, and then we'll start putting them together. Now I don't need any more parts out of this cabin pack yet, so we're going to make sure we cover it back over, keep the sun and the moisture off it, put a bit of weight on top, and stop the wind blowing it off, and look after your kit. So now we've got all our timber packs laid out. You can see everything lined up in a straight line, so we can see they're exactly the right length. And we can see these ones here with a little notch out in them. They're our IAR2s. They go down either side of the cabin kit. We're going to now mark those up and put all our joists in between them and put these frames together. So we've now got all our joists laid out. We're ready to put our joists together. And you can see here I've put these two together. That's for that side of the cabin, the right side, and these are for the left side. So as you're facing the cabin, these pair go on the left side. These ones are IAR2s and these ones are IAR3s. What that means is when we revert back to the plans itself, we can see closely there, we can see the IAR1s, we can see IAR3 there, and IAR2s. The IAR3s are slightly shorter than the 2s. So it's a good idea when you're looking at this plan, so you don't get confused. Let's write a little F at the front here, so we know that that's the front, and we'll label the back. That way we don't get confused on what goes where. So now you can see we've got these measurements here of 44.2 and 45. So they're going from the center of each of these boards. So now we're having another look at our plan, and what I've done is written front up the front, back at the back. I've labelled wall 1, 2 and walls A, back walls B, C and D. D is the front veranda wall. And we're sitting here trying to figure out these numbers and trying to work out the measurements. We know that the 45 is the width of that piece of timber, and we've got a 432mm space in between from centre to centre, and hopefully we can sit there and work all that out. There is an easier way that we can work things out. What we're going to do is get one of the wall boards. We're going to put the wall board on the outside here, and what that'll do is it'll show us exactly where this centre board is and meant to be, and it'll show us exactly where this centre board is meant to be, and we'll use those for our measurements. And then what we'll do is we'll just average the distance between here, so that we don't get too caught up into playing around with this. This could take you hours to work out. We'll simply average out the distance here. This is also useful when we're using yellow tongue flooring under our timber flooring, because our yellow tongue flooring is 3.6 meters long, and we want it to join on one of these joists, so it might join up on this joist here. So what we might do is move that joist backwards this way or forwards this way just a little bit to pick up the end of the yellow tongue flooring, which goes under your timber flooring. So let's go and find the first wall. We'll go back to our plan. We'll see our basic floor plan. We're back to our joist plan. Next page will be our tongue and groove timber flooring. And then we've got, here we can see wall 1. This is our left wall, and what we're looking for is this piece of timber here, which is a 001. It should be marked 001 on the piece of timber, but if it's not, we go back to our parts plan and we look for number 001, and we can see here that 001 is right at the top, and it is 7.2 meters long. So let's go find a wall board that's 7.2 meters long. We're going to rest it up on top of our joist, and we're going to mark the center, and it'll make a much easier way to work out these hieroglyphics. What we do now is we're going to join our IAR's 2s together, just with the cramp, just to hold them in place for the moment. So when we put our marks on our timber, they're going to be in exactly the right spot for our joist to attach to. So make sure it's flush at the back here, so the timber's nice and flush. Put your cramp on just to hold it tight while we put our marks on the timber. For the sake of this part of the video, what I've done is sat a back wall piece on here, and you can see the back wall piece is a half piece. This is what we call a half piece, and the side walls are full pieces. So shortly we're going to put a 200mm batten screw into the top of here once all our base frame's made up, and a 125mm into this part of the frame when the joists are ready to go. But what we're looking at here is all of our boards, you'll actually see there's a 5mm overlap where this board overlaps here, so that when water drips down, it drips off. That's the idea of it. And right around the whole outside of the cabin, we'll come around to this side. So it's just sitting in place at the moment, for an example. We can see it's sitting over the top here. So when we pull these two apart, we're going to use this line here to line up exactly where our board's meant to go. So we can see that's overhanging just a little bit there, and you'll find that this line here is actually flush with the green timber at the base. Now that I've removed that piece of timber, we're going to line up that edge with that edge of the base. We know that that's where our first board goes and our second board goes because I've marked them, that's easy. We're going to come up here to the middle section. The next board actually goes right in the middle there. The sun's in my way, so I'll take it from this side. I might be able to get a better shot. So if we mark exactly in the middle of those two boards, we know that our joist goes there, and that's the center of that joist. And there's one on this side of it and one on this side of it to pick up the flooring. So this signifies your wall, and that's going to be the room of your bedroom and your bathroom space. This space is a living space. The next mark, we can do exactly the same way. We go right at the front here, and there it is there. So we're going to mark it in the center of that, and that is going to be another joist, goes through there. It's going to be one on this side to pick up the flooring, and one up this side to pick up the veranda. So now we know where to mark. What we're going to do is take these marks, we're going to average out the space between the middle wall and the front wall and the back wall, and then we're going to put marks for our joists to line up. So now we're just working out exactly where this is going. So we've marked here, we've got this center mark here. Like I said before, if you don't get this exactly correct, don't stress too much about it. Even I've made mistakes here. So what we're using is this center line, and a joist is going between there, which fits right in the middle of this wall here, and then there's one either side to pick up the flooring. And so we're just going to measure between this point and the back point. We're going to average out our spaces and put in some marks, and then we'll mark where these go. So they're just evenly spaced. And once again, you can also measure from here up to about here somewhere, your 3.6 metre mark, where if you've got yellow tongue flooring going under the timber flooring for extra insulation, you can move one of these bearers backwards and forwards to line up and meet up with the middle of the yellow tongue flooring. So now we've got our basic frame together. We've screwed our corners together, and we're just putting through where the wall sits on both sections. And it's really easy to do. What you want to try and do is get a real nice flush finish so they line up perfectly. And we're going to put some batten screws through just like this. We're using a 7 or 8 mil drill bit. We're going to pre-drill, and we're only bringing the drill through that far, so not right into the timber, so just into where you can feel it hit the joist. And then we're using our 125 mil batten screws. In your plans it'll say to use the silver screws, but we tend to go a little bit heavier and we like to use the 125 mil batten screws. And you don't have to screw them right in, just screw them so they're just under the surface like that. So we've made sure it's flush there. We're using our F-clamp to make it nice and neat here. We're going to put another screw through there to hold all these three together. And they only need to be sort of 100 mil away from the corner here, and then every 900 mil along. And you can put one on one side and one on the other if you like. That works well. And you could use the batten screws, or you can use the silver screws that come with the kit. The silver screws are about 115 mil long. They'll work perfectly for this as well. So we're just joining these three together now. What we want to use is our 125 mil batten screw, and you can see it goes almost to the other side. We're going to pre-drill a hole just to about there, like so. And I like to go about 100 mil, 120 mil from the corner, and then we go 900 mil in the middle. Put our screw in. And that'll hold those three together nice and flush. Use the F-clamp, makes life easy. So now we're pre-drilling our corner. We're going to start getting one edge lined very straight, and then we'll work off that. When you put a screw down, it's good to put it down so it grips into the bottom, and then pull it back up a little bit, and then screw it back down again. It helps it really tight and firm down here. Right, now we're going to straighten this line up here, get a nice straight line, and then we're going to square off the edges. So now we've just run a string line from the very back right up to the very front. We've put these spaces in here just so that we can keep an equal amount of space off here, and we're going to follow our string line and put our next screw in. The next screw generally goes 900 mil from the back corner. So we usually, on normal builds, would start 100 mil from the back corner. In this build it's got a different base, so it's a little bit difficult. And we'll come up another 900 mil and we'll put our next screw. And we'll do the same process right up to the front, so we've got one side perfectly straight. Then we're going to square off that corner. And once that corner's square, we'll square off the next one. We'll show you how to do that in a moment. At this stage, you can think about electrics. You want your electronics coming through, you're going to want power points around the floor. And in most of the cabins you can come straight up through the floor. You haven't got this layer here, so you can come straight in underneath, straight through your timber floor, and have a box, a power point, sorry, on the inside of your wall. Alternatively, you can bore a hole through here, bring your wire right up through here into your wall timber, and pop it through your wall timber. That's the other way to do it. It is very time consuming, but both options are now's the time to do it. So now we've got our foundation set out. We've put our screws right around the outside, and we've also remembered to put your screws through each and every board into your bearer underneath. So if you've got a traditional bearers and joist setup, you've got your bearers going under here. These green pieces are your joist, and we screwed each one of them off so you get no bounce in the floor. So now that's all correct. It's a good idea at this point of time to check your levels as well and make sure it's level in all the spots, because at the moment if you had something out of level you could make an adjustment by lifting up the post or lifting up the timber. And if you're level and square, we're right to do the fun part, and that's to get the walls on. Once we've done our base, it's a really good idea to start with the veranda, because as we start going up with the walls, when we get high enough, we're going to need to put the veranda posts in place to keep going up with our cabin. So if the veranda's in place and ready to go, it's not going to slow you down later on. In this model, we've got these beautiful 28mm thick decking boards, 28mm thick. The rough sawn side goes underneath, that goes on top of your joists, and the smooth side goes on top. These ones have already been pre-sealed, just makes it easier to seal when you can get right around the edges of these if you pre-seal them before you put them down. Alright, so basically in the kit, some kits will come with nails. They'll be the galvanised nails, so it's a more of a greyish colour rather than a bright silver. You use them for your decking. The silver ones, we'll use them on the timber flooring and the roof boards. What we're doing on this deck, we're actually going to go to screws. We're going to go a little bit fancier on this deck. And basically you start just on the edge, you're just overhanging your joist here. You're starting from where the front wall is going to sit. Screw in there, screw along the edge, and you just follow your joists along. So you're screwing or nailing into each and every joist like that. And these are a good idea. These are a great little spacer you can use. They're about a 6.5mm spacer. You put them between your boards, put one at either end, one there and one at that end, and that'll help you get your space, this space nice and even. Put your screws in, next board, next spacer, right up to the other end. Pretty simple, pretty self-explanatory. So now that that's done, we're going to put our wall layers in place. We're going to go select the pieces we need. You can see the back wall, the front wall, and the bathroom wall are these half pieces. It's only half the size, whereas the wall side, the first layer, is 136mm. The next layer on top of here will be 136mm, and we can see how our wind-tight chalet corners work. They're really nice, precisionally cut out like that. We're going to tap this down in a minute with a wooden mallet, a rubber mallet, and we're going to set it down in place. Then we're going to put a string line on this again just to make sure it's beautiful and straight, and then we're going to screw it down all level. So we'll put our first layer down, and we're going to start to screw down. And when we screw, our first screw is going to come 100mm off each corner. So go 100mm that way and 100mm this way, and then from there on in we go about 900mm up until the next wall join, and then we go 100mm off that wall join again. When we start our first board, we will find that that edge is going to be flush with here, and this edge will be right in line with that corner. So the actual timber itself overhangs the outside end of the green timbers. When we put this piece on as well, that will slot straight into there, and it will also overhang the edge of the green timber, and that's so water just drips straight down off here.